time for your love coach. Let's find out if you're ready for love. Here's your marvelous host, Nikki Lee.
Hello, and welcome to Ready for Love Radio. This is your host and love coach, Nikki Lee. Today, we are going to talk about how great sex can transform your life. Now, you may be a little skeptical, and I understand that. But by the end of the hour, we're going to convince you that great sex is not only going to make you happy in the bedroom, but it can transform all aspects of your life. Now, I've been talking about this lately in some of the other shows, and we've kind of hinted at different areas of your life that can be transformed and how it can be improved by you improving your sex life and your attitude about sex. But now today we're going to delve a whole lot deeper into that topic. And I've got a guest all the way from Australia to help me explain this in more detail. So, Eyal, I'm very happy to have you with me today, and we are just going to delve into this topic deeper than I have a feeling any of my listeners have heard this topic talked about before. So it's awesome to have you with me today.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. And as we like to say in India, your pleasure is my pleasure, madam.
There you go. I like that. Just, you know what? We're just going to have lots of pleasure, and we're going to share lots of pleasure today. How about that?
Yeah, totally.
All right, let me tell you guys a little bit about my guest. He is a sexuality expert and a human potential coach. I saw that, and I'm like, awesome. That is a fantastic way to start this. Now, his business is Intimate Power, and he helps business people use their mojo, their sexual energy, to unleash their full potential. Now, think about that. We're going to use sexual energy to unleash your potential. Keep that in mind. Once you learn to love and accept yourselves, now where have y'all heard that before? You're going to be able to express your higher gifts, help more people, and make more money. He's the author of Orgasm Unleashed, your guide to pleasure, healing, and power. An orgasm guide for women has been endorsed by sexuality industry leaders such as Layla Martin and Bonnie Bliss. He also publishes blogs and online programs and holds coaching sessions, public talks, and weekend workshops. I've got a copy of that, and I've started delving into it and looking at it, and it's got some incredible topics in it. So we're gonna try to find some time to talk about some of the details, and just if we don't, there's going to be a link to it on the show page, so y'all can get some more details about that too. I got an email talking about a program that you were doing, and I said, this is somebody I've got to have on the show. We've got to delve into this, because I saw about, learning to love and accept yourself, which anybody that's listened to my show once knows that is one of my pet topics I love to talk about, and I love to help people to understand more about. And I love helping people understand, because, I've experienced so much myself that changing your attitude about sex and intimacy has such sweeping, transforming power over your life completely. And I don't think people, for the most part, understand that. How did you realize that? Is there an easy way to kind of explain that to the listeners to kind of give us kind of a starting point for this discussion?
Yeah, I wanna pre-frame and say that it's like I am a man and I talk a lot about female sexuality, and I guess that some women are sick and tired of men who think that they know what they're talking about in regards to women and sex. Is that something you can relate to?
I think there have been times in life where I felt that way, but I've met more men who are really putting the effort into understanding.
Yeah.
And
so that's sexual resonance. We might get into that later, but there's a general thing that women are tired of men telling them, it's like what to do and how to feel and what it is to be a woman and so on. So I don't think
it's so much the being told how to feel, but I think it's men that want to connect with women and want to understand. I think that's more what I'm getting from more men. It's not what I feel, but wanting to understand what I feel. How about that?
Yeah, I'm happy you have a positive attitude towards that, and that's a good thing. I often get attacked on social media because I'm a man who talks about female sexuality. So
I can
So
see how
they
that
say,
could be a problem.
yeah, so they say how dare a man talk about this. So I just want to address that. I like to address the elephant in the room first. And just to say that
try to talk to men about their sexuality, though. Could be the same problem, right?
Yeah, very similar. So I wanna address that and say that I have been doing this all my life, and I've published a let's say mini best-selling book that's been endorsed by women. So many women sexual educators endorse me and my work. So listen with an open mind. And I'm not trying to sugarcoat things. I'm going to say things as they are, and I understand, Nikki, that's your attitude as well. So to answer your question, how did I get to this realization of the connection between sexuality and life? Is that in some ways I've been doing this all my life. I've been interested in not just having sex with women, which I love very much, but also in healing them and empowering them and understanding them. I got into Tantra, into really traditional Tantra around 2005. Tantra is not just about sex, by the way. It's about maybe 5% of tantric studies are sex. But yeah, I was living in an alternative community, conscious community on a tropical island. And yes, I had a lot of sexual practices and a lot of sexual experiences. And I started to see how both for me and for my lovers, it wasn't just about the sex. It was about how me and them felt afterwards. And also I kept in touch with them over email and social media and stuff. And they told me that months later and sometimes years later, they would look back and they would see the influence of those sexual experiences on their life.
Right.
And I would it's like consider two scenarios. One of them is a woman who has pain during sex, hardly ever has sex, or has shitty sex. I don't know which one of them is worse, by the way, not having sex or having bad sex. But anyway, the sex is not working very well, doesn't love her body, is not connected to her femininity, constantly in her head, doesn't connect to her body, can never orgasm or can hardly ever orgasm, or she has this kind of orgasms which are very depleting and very unsatisfying that we can get into later. So when such a woman goes out of the house, first of all, goes out of the bedroom, how does she interact with her kids? How does she interact with her girlfriends? How does she go about her studies? How does she go about her career and her job and her business? How does that affect her creativity? Okay, so the idea is that when you have issues like that, it affects everything.
Yes.
So I have clients who come to me for coaching sessions over Skype and phone, and they say, oh, my life is great, I only have a problem with my sexuality. And after a few minutes of discussing where they are in life, we see that actually the sexuality and the sexual issues have huge effect over their life, and they're not where they want to be in life. And they are suffering from stress and eating disorders and obsessive, either addictions or just general activities. It can even be exercise, it's like, and they're lacking a deep level of fulfillment and meaning and joy in their life because they're not connected to their sexuality. Does that make sense, Nikki?
Yeah, it does. It makes a lot of sense.
So consider another scenario, so those women start to follow my guidance and the practices that I suggest, and it's like doing the work. And it's not about 2 tips that would transform your life. There's a lot of things that you can be doing, and you can be spending half an hour, sometimes 2 hours a day doing these practices. If you wish, you can start with 10 minutes. Consider, after working on this for a while, becoming deeply orgasmic, experiencing these amazing orgasms that last for 10, 20 minutes, sometimes an hour, after which you don't feel depleted, but you feel charged. So it's a combination of feeling relaxed and peaceful and also charged, feeling a deep connection with yourself, a deep connection with your partner, a deep connection with life and love, a deep connection with your creativity, with your femininity, with God, and whatever that means for you. So again, how would that affect who you are as a partner and as a lover? How would it affect how you are as a sister or as a parent? How would that affect how you create and how you move around the world?
Exactly.
How would you talk? How would you walk? How would you work? How would you serve? How would you interact with bosses, colleagues, peers, and clients, or with the employees, subordinates?
Right.
You know, so does that make sense? That once you deal with this part of your life, everything else improves?
Yeah, it does. Well, and I don't think I really had ever realized that before I started doing all of this coaching training and started noticing so many changes in myself and my perspective. Because you get, and I just talked about this last week as far as, a couple of weeks ago, as far as getting into a rut, and, you get into a certain mindset and you just don't notice certain things. You don't notice that you're in a rut. You get there.
Can I invite you to say I, by the way? Can I invite you to say I? So instead of saying you don't notice that you are in a rut, were you talking about me?
No. Okay.
Can you
we
say I
don't notice
go in a rut?
You're in a rut. Sorry, not you personally, not you.
So you mean to say I'm on a rut? I, Nikki, am on a rut sometimes.
I don't know you well enough to say if you are. So yeah, you're right. We don't notice if we are. How about that?
we means you and me. So one of the things that I'm kind of like, this is something that I do in my coaching and generally like in workshops and so on, because what you just said is a really good example of people externalizing how they feel and what they're going through, both the good and the bad.
Right.
Okay. So when somebody is saying, "Oh, when you're going through a rut," they're not feeling the pain of being in a rut. But if, for example, you right now will be saying, "I'm going through a rut, right. I'm feeling like shit," suddenly it's like you allow yourself to feel what you're actually avoiding feeling, and you're actually taking ownership, or both over feeling it and also over having the power to change it.
Well, and that's something I mention on here so often too, is we have the power to change our circumstances. But in order to do that, we have to acknowledge there is a problem and that we're tired of it, that we want to make a change. So once we acknowledge there's a problem, then we're in a position to start making changes. And we have to understand there can be something better. That's one of the big reasons I want to do this show. And like I said, to help the listeners to understand that. Well, and I think so many times, too, people, like you'll be in the checkout line at the grocery store and you'll see, like, the latest Cosmo, and it's talking about, 20 ways more orgasms. And they're like, well, whoop-de-doo. That's
when I'm in the grocery store.
Well, okay. When whoever is in the grocery store. But, when anyone sees the magazine there at the grocery store and it's talking about whatever and some person is looking at that and they're saying, well, that only applies in the bedroom. Okay, but they're not thinking the big picture that if you're happier sexually, that's going to have other impacts on your life. It's not just going to make you happier in the bedroom. There's so many other ways it's going to impact your life. That's what I want people to understand through this show today. That's the goal for today.
Yeah, and it's like, I would say that usually people, and by the way, I do allow myself to use third body, how do you call it? Third person, because I do talk about, I can talk about my own, I had the whole journey with that, but obviously I've been doing this all my life, so I'm not dealing with some of the issues that I talk about. But yeah, it's like, there is, in society generally, there's a separation between things. People put things into boxes. Okay, there's a tendency to try to label things and to separate things. And by the way, that's very much the masculine. If you want to talk about polarities, the feminine connects. The masculine separates. The masculine defines and put things into boxes. Okay, so if you believe the mind-body connection, you understand that whatever's going in your mind, whatever issues that you have, even psychologically, affect your body. There's another idea that everything is connected to everything, which is a little bit of a new age idea. But Tantra has been talking about this for 5,000 years. Okay, that one of the meanings of Tantra is a web or warp, like the World Wide Web, but energetically. So everything is connected to everything, and every part of your life is connected to any other part of your life. And also, if you know I'm kind of like using a lot of cliches, but cliches are cliches because they've been said so many times, because they are true most of the time. Okay. So how you do anything is how you do everything.
Okay.
So if you look at your sex, not you personally, but you who's listening, how is your not you Nikki, but the person who's listening? How is the way you do sex related to the way that you do life? The way that you do your job, the way that you raise your kids. Is it stressed and harsh and disconnected and maybe even painful, or is it blissful and you take the time for yourself, your partner takes the time, and there's no rushing, but there's also both passion and peace.
Right.
Okay, because most people think about sex as this race to the finish line, both for the man and for the woman. People want to come, people want to finish, people want to peak. And this is something that exists in your life as well. Are you constantly striving towards getting somewhere instead of stopping and smelling the flowers?
Too much worrying about the destination and not enjoying the journey to get there.
Yeah. Totally.
Definitely. Agreed. Yeah, I tell people, enjoy the journey, people. Enjoy the journey and the destination, not just, getting there. But agreed.
And can I give a practical? I really like to be practical. It's like I love philosophizing.
Of course.
I'm like a philosopher of sex in some ways, but
Ooh, a philosopher of sex. I like that. Sure, certainly.
But I'm also a very practical person. So I just want to give a practical tip to help the listeners to actually do and follow the idea of smelling the flowers.
Certainly, go ahead.
So one of the things that you can explore is generally when you're having sex, practice a secret, amazing, profound, advanced sex technique. Do you know what that is, Nikki?
No, tell me.
It's called the pause.
Okay.
And the pause means that every few minutes, or every time you change position, or every time you feel like it, or every time there's a lot of energy or feeling, or every time you feel too close to coming or whatever, just pause.
Okay.
Just let go of all actions and all, penetration, friction, pounding, all of that stuff, squeezing, twisting, kissing, whatever. Just look at each other's eyes.
Breathe. Okay.
And I promise you that many people who are listening have never done that in 10, 20, 30, and sometimes 40 years of making love. Of having sex. Okay, I know that because I talk with these people.
I know. Okay.
So, and the pause is something that you do when you make out and when you have foreplay. The pause is something that you do when you make love. The pause is something that you can do while you're jogging. Okay, if anybody's jogging, you know that you're getting into the zone, and then you are in this kind of a pause from your mind.
Right.
And this is something that you can do when you eat. So especially if people have issues with eating and overeating and so on, take a few bites and just pause and just wait a minute or two. And I don't know if you mentioned it earlier, but the work that I do is not just about sex and sexuality, but it's about unleashing your full potential and about being the person that you're born to be, about expressing your gifts, about helping other people. So this is how sexual practices go out of the bedroom and start to impact and transform your whole life.
Exactly. Very true. Well, and there are other benefits. I don't know if you want to get into this, but there's other benefits too when you kind of pause the activities when you're making love too, that will help to let's see, how shall we say, help extend your lovemaking also. Do you want to get into that at all?
Yeah, totally. That's it's always a question how do I condense
Not that I'm telling men anything about like how to have sex or anything, but
No, not at all. Okay, we can go there. So one of the things with the pause, by the way, there's other aspects to it. It also like heals sexual trauma and allows you to experience multiple orgasms and healing on many levels, and deepening the love aspect and not just the passion aspect, and allowing you to relax, allowing your parasympathetic nervous system to take charge, and so you're not in the fight, flight, or freeze response. There's a lot of things there, you know. So I'm not being facetious when I say the pause is one of the most important sex tips that you'll ever hear. What you hinted upon is the idea of lasting longer. And you know, it's like many men would say, "Oh, I don't have an issue with premature ejaculation. Okay, I'm okay." So premature ejaculation in science is defined as lasting for less than 1 minute from the moment of penetration to the moment of ejaculation. Okay, so according to that, anybody who lasts more than 1 minute does not have premature ejaculation. However, the average in the West from the point of penetration to the point of ejaculation is 5.4 minutes.
Ooh, okay.
Yes. You know, so what I'm asking is this the best that we can do for ourselves and for our partners? 5.4 effing minutes of penetration. Okay, I don't personally think that's very satisfying. You know,
I think we should go for more personally, but
yeah, that's not really long enough. First of all, on the physical level, to reach really deep orgasms, both for the man and for the woman. And by the way, I'm very hetero in my language. Please make the translations as you need. Just because my own experience is hetero. So let's say for both partners, it's not enough time to reach deep orgasms, but also it's about the connection and the love that is built through penetration, because penetration has a very special energy that you don't have when you don't have penetration. So on the physiological level, on the orgasm level, on the love level, and also on the spiritual practice level, because conscious sex and tantric sex can be a spiritual practice. Okay, so I would say the way that I define premature ejaculation is coming before both you and your partner choose to.
Oh, that's an interesting definition. I like that. Okay.
So you can be lasting for an hour, but if then suddenly you slip, I'm talking to the man here, you last for an hour, which is great, but then you slip and you go into an ejaculation that you didn't plan, that's premature ejaculation. Okay, so I teach men to be in total control of their ejaculation. Yes, it means that sometimes they need to pause. Yes, it means that sometimes they need to pull out. Yes, it means that sometimes maybe they don't even penetrate. But they're in control over their body. They're aware of their body instead of their body controlling them.
Okay.
So many people have a very disjointed approach to ejaculation control, and I have a 5-step model, a very simple 5-step model that allows men to understand why they're doing it, which is a whole section by itself. I talk for 45 minutes about the why in the program, and then there's the how to do and what to do and how to do it as well. Okay,
right.
So yeah, and again, the pausing is important, but it's not just the pausing, but the 4th step of the model is move, which is it's important to move the sexual energy, also known as channeling the sexual energy, circling the sexual energy. And you start by circulating it in your body, but then you continue with circulating it into your mission, into your creativity, into whatever roles you play in life outside the bedroom.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Well, and I'll just put out there that building up and pausing also works for women to help to intensify orgasms also.
Totally.
It works for men and it works for women too. So just something to consider.
Well, so and by the way, for the men who are interested, there's a free version of the program. I think it's ejaculationcontrolprogram.com. I'm gonna check the link later, but on the website intimatepower.com, you'll find links there to the program, and I would say that even people who've watched those free videos have managed to last longer and to bring their partners into orgasm and stuff. So into multiple orgasms, obviously. And yeah, I can relate to what you said about the women, if you wish, and talk about the 2 major different kinds of orgasms for women.
Yeah, do that, because like I said, it does, I mean, it may be something that women haven't experimented with or tried, or even with their partners or just themselves, and it can make a difference and intensify their orgasms, and it's worth experimenting with. It really is.
Yes. So generally, there's two major kind of orgasms. So, I think Freud talked about the clitoral and the vaginal. I have a different way of describing it.
Okay.
Which is because, many people are enraged and they say it's like, oh, don't disrespect the clit. There's no problem with the clit. And I agree, there's no problem with the clit. The issue is, or the point is, what do you do with it? So there's one kind of orgasm that usually comes from clitoral stimulation, but not just. And if after the orgasm is usually short and sharp, so the pleasure feels very sharp, and immediately there's a very sharp decline of pleasure, arousal, desire, and also connection with your partner. And also there's a feeling of hypersensitivity in your clit, or generally in your genitals, or even in your body, kind of like, lay off my clit now, or don't even touch me.
Yeah, exactly.
So I literally talk with women who cannot cuddle afterwards because they feel literally this electric, not in a good way, kind of like nearly, how do you say this, when two magnets, repulsion. It's like they go and they take a shower, they wash themselves, they feel like they're done. So the feeling in the body is done. Okay. And the feeling of satisfaction is not really deep, So yes, great, you have an orgasm, but it doesn't feel nourishing. It doesn't feel deeply satisfying. And I actually talk with many women who afterwards, cry or feel a bit moody and maybe depressed, either for a few minutes or for a few hours, and sometimes for a few days.
Really?
I talk with a lot of people about this. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
That's kind of like the first question I ask anybody on the coaching call, just to understand where they are, is what's your orgasmic experience, and so many women share with me this thing. So it's anything from a few seconds to a few days of feeling, and even if you just feel it for a few minutes, some women can have those orgasms, 10 in a row, and they think that they're multi-orgasmic, but the thing is they keep peaking and dropping, peaking and dropping, peaking and dropping. Okay,
right.
So the telltale sign is that if your clit or if your vagina became hypersensitive, that probably means that you have this orgasm, which I call the explosive orgasm. Explosive sounds very good. Okay, right. It's like, but in the way that I use this word, it means that an explosion means that you had something and it got lost, it got dispersed. Okay. The other kind of orgasm is called an implosive orgasm. Implosive usually means internal, but not only, because men can have implosive and explosive orgasms as well. And that means that the pleasure takes longer to build, but then it also takes longer to unfold and longer to disperse. Okay, so it will take you a bit more time to build into this kind of orgasm, but then you can stay on what I call an orgasmic state rather than an orgasmic peak. Okay. And then you can go into experiences of having an orgasm for 10 minutes or for 20 minutes and sometimes for an hour. And those experiences feel different. Physically, by the way, the pleasure is less sharp, it's more round, and it is pleasurable in a different way, and most women would agree it's more pleasurable. On an emotional level, there's a feeling of fullness, there's a feeling of satisfaction, there's a feeling of connection to yourself, your partner, and the universe, or God, or whatever you want to call that. It's a whole body experience rather than a genital focused experience.
Definitely.
It's a continuous experience which is effortless. Okay, with the first kind of orgasms, I see women push towards the orgasm. Okay, I can listen to a woman masturbating, which I do sometimes. I guide women in self-pleasuring through phone and Skype and stuff. So I would hear somebody, and I would know which kind of orgasm they are building towards. Okay, because I would hear the effort in their voice.
Well, that's interesting. Okay.
So yeah, once you start doing this work, you start to develop, this kind of like
right.
acute awareness of every sound and every facial expression and every body language sign and so on. So the second kind of orgasm, that's the one that women usually prefer.
Well, yeah.
And the thing is that, I mean, yes, but if I may, I mean, you are Nikki, you are quite experienced and very forward thinking, but I literally have women, they tell me that they are addicted to the explosive orgasms. Also, sometimes we call them clitoral orgasms, and they say it's like I masturbate, and I know that when I have them, it's not good for me, but I'm still tempted to do this every day. And there's this one woman who, I can quote her because she gave me permission to quote her. That's Juliet Allen, who's a sexologist in Australia, and she was having a lot of these clitoral orgasms. You can say addicted to them, and she following my guidance and following my support, she managed to avoid them for a few weeks, and the whole orgasmic experience changed. And this is the idea. If you want those deeper orgasms, connecting, Nikki, to your previous question, if you want those deeper orgasms, avoid the shallow orgasms, because you need to build some energy, and you need to learn how to hold energy, to connect and to contain energy, and to move energy in your body. Because most people, for example, men don't last long because they start to have so much energy in their genital area and generally in their body that they feel that they have to jerk off or to, have sex and to disperse it.
Right.
And going back to the topic of the show today, if you learn how to hold sexual energy, you will also learn how to hold more of the energy of money, more of the energy of creativity, more of the energy of leadership, more of the energy of spirituality and enlightenment, and whatever kind of energy you are interested in. Learning how to cultivate and contain sexual energy is one of the biggest keys.
Interesting. It's so much. I remember the first couple of people that I connected with that do energy work, and it seemed like just so mystical, But then I've met so many other people that do energy work, and it's interesting. Each one approaches it just a little bit differently, but it's just amazing the scope of all the different things I've learned from all the different people over, about the last 10 to 15 years. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And by the way, as a side note, 1 second, I'll just need to grab my cup of tea. So I'm engaged in amazing balancing of my laptop over my hand. No, over my head will be extra points.
No dropping.
Yeah. Yeah, so just as a side note, whatever it is that you're doing, you're dealing with energy, if you know it or not. But that's
yes.
Maybe that's a topic for a different conversation. Yeah, and people need to understand that the world of energy and sexual practices and all of the stuff is huge. Okay, there's so many practices and there's so many things that you can do. And even today we can go, and I'm happy to go into more practical stuff, again, just to give the listeners more concrete value from this episode, if you want.
How can people learn to control the energy themselves? How can we give them some idea of how to have some control? You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes, totally.
Good.
Yeah, so there's many ways to answer this. Let me see. So I want to share with you the most important practice that honestly anybody who asks me, it's always the same thing. It's always the same answer. Okay. Okay. So I'm sharing it with others. I want to share that with you as well.
Okay.
And that is the practice of self-pleasuring or self-loving, which also connects to what you do and to your mission, Nikki. Okay. Because many people, specifically women, come to me and they say, it's like, oh, I'm looking for the man who can, make me orgasmic and, heal me and pleasure me and take care of my needs and whatever. Or sometimes they would see me as a coach or as a healer, as somebody who can solve their problems. And what I would say is start with being your own healer, start with being your own lover.
Thank you.
Connect to the inner lover.
That's what I say. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. No, and this is why we connected, because we both constantly speak about this and we found each other's work and this is why self-pleasuring, by the way, is a practice that helps you to expand and to deepen your self-love practice. Because just to say I love myself is one thing. But I can say prescribe, I suggest this practice to everybody that I work with. So the clients that who are working with me, they have, for the first month or 2 months of working with me, they have to do this, or they're invited to do this every day. And then I would get clients coming back to me and they say, I have so much resistance when I'm self-pleasuring. I have so much resistance to give myself the time. There's a voice in my head that says I'm not worthy of giving myself the time, or I'm not worthy of giving myself pleasure, I'm not worthy of giving myself love, I'm not worthy of having these deep orgasms. So this is why this is a self-loving practice, not just a self-pleasuring practice.
Right.
I notice I don't call it masturbation, because masturbation is seen, it's like it has a very technical and a very shallow level, to the energy of this word. And one of the things that you're doing in your self-pleasuring practice is also you're learning to still enjoy clitoral stimulation for women. Okay, you can totally enjoy that. There's no problem with the clit. But learning how to move your energy, and this is relating to your question, learning how to move your energy inside your vagina and also throughout your body, and then afterwards into your creativity and whatever it is that you do. So one of the things that I would recommend is do not use a vibrator, because a vibrator robs you of sensitivity. And a vibrator is only one kind of arousal. Yes, I'm sure there's many settings to some vibrators, but it's still a slightly unnatural or very unnatural stimulation, which keeps you also addicted to something which is external from you. Okay, and it's also, most vibrators work on the external, mainly on the clit and the area outside. So I would suggest to use, first of all, your fingers to feel your vagina inside, and also to use a dildo or something shaped like a dildo. A dildo, by the way, is something that, let's say, look like a penis. Okay, right. That you insert into your vagina. First of all, just to bring awareness into your yoni. Okay, yoni, by the way, is the Sanskrit word for vagina. It means a sacred space or sacred temple or sacred flower. So by doing this practice, you start to bring awareness into your vagina. You start to create and be aware of sensations, because many women tell me that they feel numb inside their vagina. And one of my lovers said something amazing the other day, which is the moment that you start to de-armor a part of your vagina. De-armor means that there's armoring. So let's say women who had unconscious sex, drunken sex, their partner penetrated them before they were ready. Even if it was a loving partner, even if they had passionate sex, but the next day woke up with a sore vagina because they were not really connected to their vagina. And what the vagina does then is develop a wall or an armor or knots, on the physical level that you can actually feel with your fingers, and also this feeling of numbness, and also a huge repression of emotions that are all locked in the cells of your vagina.
Right.
And once you start touching there, first of all, the first thing that you would feel is numbness, but then you might actually feel pain. Okay, so I would, do a sexual healing with a woman, and she said, I never have pain in my vagina. Why is it that you're touching me inside? I'm feeling pain. And this is because I'm bringing awareness to her vagina, and suddenly she starts feeling all of the stuff that she didn't feel before.
Right. What if a person was in a very unsatisfying relationship, and then they want to start becoming sexually active again, or if they were in some sort of a traumatic sexual situation, mm-hmm. and then they start to become sexually active again, is it normal for them to feel this sort of sexual pain?
Yes, and that's okay. And again, there's two kinds of pain. There's bad pain and good pain.
Well, yeah, that's true too.
Bad pain when something is happening which is negative, unconscious, that you're not choosing. It's unnecessary pain.
Right.
Good pain, and by the way, I don't use even the word pain so much. Let's call it sensation, okay? Because the moment we call it pain. It's what's called a painted word, okay? Like in NLP, this is something that creates a response inside you. So just think about it as a sensation. So there's very intense sensations, that might be a bit challenging. It's a little bit like, people who are working really hard and suddenly they take a vacation, a very, very long overdue vacation, and they get sick on their vacation. This thing that happens to busy people and people in careers. And the reason is that the body has suppressed the illness, suppressed the emotions, suppressed all of that stuff. And the moment that the body feels that it can let go and express, which is in the vacation, all of the sickness comes out.
Well, and part of it's also part of the healing process too, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So the healing process is sometimes the process of getting sick.
Okay, because I've gone through some of that from some healing that I had to do after a sexual assault, and it's just part of what I had to go through to get myself back to a point where I could actually have a sexual relationship with a partner again. Yeah. So, it's part of what you have to go through to get yourself physically and emotionally back to a point where you can actually be intimate with a person again.
Yeah, and I appreciate you sharing that, and I would say that even if a woman didn't have any kind of sexual assault or abuse or anything like that, I would say that most women that I've met carry stuff inside the vagina, even from words spoken to them, even from beliefs around sexuality.
Exactly.
Okay. Anybody who grows up with the idea that sex is a sin, any of the Judeo-Christian religions, and not just, by the way, if you grow up in India is the birth of Tantra, but they've been brainwashed by the Portuguese and most recently by the Brits, by the Puritanism of the Victorian era, okay?
Right.
And they have issues with the sexuality because what they believe about that. So self-pleasuring, specifically with internal stimulation, okay, self-pleasuring like a woman, not like a girl.
Right.
It's something which is very, very healing. Okay, so it's very healing on many, many levels. It's not just about the pleasure. Some women told me, it's like, oh, I did, 3 of the sessions and I did not have an orgasm. And I would say it's not about the orgasm. It's about you connecting to yourself, you feeling what you have inside. It's about you bringing healing to yourself. And yes, you might go through weeks and weeks and weeks of just releasing pain points. Think about it like you're going to a massage, to a really good massage practitioner. Okay, and you're finding a point on your back. And
very true.
You're not going to tell them, no, don't massage this point on my back because it's tense. You say, oh, yes, it's painful, but yeah, please, help me release that point. So why is it that women have pain and they go to see a psychologist? I'm not against psychologists generally, but if you have a pain in your back, you're not going to see a psychologist. So if you have pain in your vagina, why are you seeing a psychologist? You need to do your own body work and also go to sexual healers and sexual practitioners who know how to dissolve this pain.
Right.
Remembering that it's not just on the physical level. Okay, it's physical, energetic is huge, obviously, emotional, psychological, and spiritual levels. So I would walk with a woman, even through phone and Skype, and lead her to go into an orgasmic state, and suddenly she would cap her own orgasmic state, and she would bring it down by some kind of diversion. Because her trauma and her beliefs about herself do not allow her to go deeper into bliss and into love.
Interesting. Well, I like that you brought all that up because I think there's so much that we store in our bodies that we don't realize, because there's so many of those things, and like I said, and assault is so obvious, but there's so many of those other things. And I was raised in a very, very uptight religious household. So all of that hoopla, in the mind and all that kind of thing is kind of obvious. But there's all the other physical and emotional ways that it was stored in the body too. That yes. Just it's got to be gotten rid of, at some point.
Yes.
But
and I would say it's like I have an article somewhere called "Is it finally time to deal with your sexual issues?" And I would say that most people are carrying sexual issues, and they keep telling themselves stories of, no, it's not important. No, it's just, again, what we mentioned earlier, it's just my sexuality. Oh, when, I finish university, I'll deal with it. Oh, when the kids are older. Or no, with my current partner, I cannot. So they keep telling themselves stories why they cannot deal with their sexual issues.
Right.
So I would say that whatever it is that you're postponing, whatever it is that you know is an issue, but you're not dealing with that, that's the issue that is ruling your life. Okay, you're controlled by your addictions, and you're controlled by your shadows and your problems. And once you start dissolving them, you become free. And there's so much talk about productivity and business and making money, and Tim Ferriss, who I love very much, and drinking coffee and smart drugs and all of this stuff, and nobody's talking about sexuality.
Right. Well, and if you do try to talk about it, society wants to shut you down. They just because you can't talk about that. Or if you do, you're bad.
Yeah, because the level of this discussion is very juvenile.
Yeah.
Okay, society is something between infantile and juvenile, and even in the West, we think that, not we, because I am, but the Western society thinks that it's all sexually liberated after the 60s and the pill, and people having hookups and Tinder and whatever, but it's a very juvenile, it's a very childish attitudes towards sex, very childish experiences of sex. And porn, by the way, is not a problem. Porn is a symptom of this awareness that we have around sex. Okay, so porn shows us, porn is a reflection of where society is at. It's not just something which is educating or miseducating society. Porn sells because it shows us what we want to see.
Yes.
And what most people want to see is penis going inside vagina.
Pretty much. Okay,
penis and vagina, and the harder, stronger, faster, bigger expressions of that. That's it. And obviously everything is fake. Women don't have natural bodies. They don't have natural, hair. They don't have natural breasts. They don't have natural anything. And everything is everything, or most of what you see on porn is fake. Including amateur porn, okay? Most amateur porn is actually like professional porn, which is done, to look amateur, but
it's certainly not done in one take.
Yeah, for example, So, and even if it's in one take, it's like I hardly ever watch porn, but sometimes I do. And by the way, the real amateur porn is the more exciting, because it shows real couples making love. But
right.
Even then, it's about I can't use this word, effing. Okay, it's effing rather than making love.
Right.
And it's, again, friction, penetration, pounding, intensity, surface level, physical, everything that you can capture easily on camera and present it within a few minutes.
Yep.
So conscious sex and sacred sex can be orgasmic and can be ecstatic, but it would look, feel, sound totally different. Yeah.
Very true. Well, actually, on the 2nd of July, I'm doing a special show. The first Sunday of each month, I have a 3-hour show that I do on Fame Music Radio, broadcast out of South Africa. And this month, what I'm doing is I'm going to have three former guests are coming on with me, and we are actually going to do a full 3 hours explaining the different sort of sexuality specialist. I'm going to have a body worker with me. I'm going to have a sexual therapist with me. I'm going to have someone with me that's going to completely explain what a surrogate actually does, bust all the myths. So I'm going to be on. So I'm going to explain what a sexpert and what a love coach really does, and we're going to delve into all the different specialties, and we're going to explain what they really mean. So it's going to all the different sorts of specialties, and we're going to explain what the kind of options as far as what sex educators really offer, and what kind of education and training and all that kind of thing are really out there for people. So it's going to be a wild show. I'm really looking forward to doing it. Because people just don't have a clue what kind of help is out there for people. So that's what the full 3 hours is going to be about. So I'm looking for questions. So people can send me questions at readyforloveradio gmail.com, and we'll be taking questions and answering them on air. So it's going to be an interesting show. But like I said, there's a lot of questions, and people just don't know where to go. And I want people to know what kind of resources are out there for them. It should be interesting, but there's a whole lot of trained experts out there that can help. So I figured maybe this will help people understand a little bit what kind of people are out there that actually have training that can help. We will see. But one of my shows in the future coming up on the Sunday morning deal, I'll have to have you come on there with me.
I'll be happy to.
We'll have to find something interesting to talk about.
Can I just relate to what you just said, because that's just
sure.
One of my deeper and long-term missions is to bring sexual education and sexual practices not just to the masses, but to professionals.
Yes.
Okay. So bringing them to other sexuality practitioners, because I find that many sexuality practitioners are very limited in their approach. By the way, even tantric body work, and when somebody's just calling themselves a body worker, I have an issue with that. If somebody's a therapist, a sex therapist, I mean, that's great. But then I would again ask, what about the other aspects? If somebody's an energy worker, I would again ask, what about the other aspects?
Right.
And looking at other adjacent fields, like coaching. So if you do business coaching with a person and you're not addressing their sexuality, there's something missing from your coaching. If you're a dating coach, relationship coach, self-love coach, and you're not addressing sexuality, something is missing from your coaching. If you are health, wellness, nutrition, lifestyle expert or coach, and you're not addressing sexuality, something is missing from your practice. Okay, so I would say that with all of these fields, and obviously education, personal development, anything to do with health, with empowerment, anybody who works with people, okay, has something to do with sexuality.
Well, and so many people don't cover sexuality at all in the training and the help that they give people. I mean, they avoid it completely.
Yes.
That was one.
By the way, even sexologists don't really learn about sex. They learn about anatomy.
That's true.
They learn some ideas about. It's like I talk with sexologists and people who have done master's degrees, and they say nobody teaches us the thing that you write in your book, or the thing that you even talk about in podcast interviews. And I find it something between saddening and a little bit, frustrating and enraging, because again, society's issues with sexuality run so deep that even in stuff that is supposed to cover that, it's not really discussed. Okay, so one of the biggest missions is to bring this practices to whoever needs them, and this is why I invite professionals to come and to contact me and to receive some of these practices and integrate them into their practices. And also people like you, Nikki, people who have audiences who can share this message. This message needs to reach more people.
Yes.
I think it's about time, 2017, 60, 70 years after the so-called sexual revolution, which wasn't really a revolution, that we really reach a new level of sexual revolution, a new level of sexual empowerment, a new level of sexual freedom.
Well, that's like there's a coaching group that I'm on in Facebook, and so many of them. I mean, I recommended them. I said, even with the coaching training they have, I tell them, I said, please look into the coaching training that I took, because there's so many sexuality-based courses in what I took that I know none of them took. I said, just to add on to what you all have as far as coaching training and dating and all that, look into it. It wouldn't be a bad thing to add to what you've got.
Totally.
Do you want to tell the listeners about your website and definitely about your book? Definitely tell them about your book.
Cool. So everything can be found at intimatepower.com. That's intimate like intimacy, not intimate. It's not the internet. Okay, so intimatepower.com. You'll find the book Orgasm Unleashed, which is a real book, which means it's not just a PDF. You can find it also on Amazon and everywhere where they sell books online. And that's a book for women and those who love them.
There's also the Ejaculation Control program that I mentioned on the website. There's a lot of articles, interviews, videos, including videos of me bringing women to a very, very, very deep orgasmic state, sometimes without touching their genitals, sometimes with hardly even touching them. Okay, so if you are interested in that, there's that. And also it's like I help people do this, people from around the world, via phone and Skype without even touching them, which is quite amazing. Okay, so some of it is just, coaching and, counseling and so on, just verbal talking, but some of it is actually supporting people to go into this. I'm obviously doing this, face-to-face as well, but you don't have to be wherever I'm at in the world to receive that. And another thing is this information about workshops that I run around the world, teaching people how to connect to their own sexual power and also how to empower other people in this. So yeah, if there's any questions or anything that came up from that, I'm very, very happy to answer and support the people who need that. And two other resources, if I may, Nikki.
Sure, go ahead.
So it's very important to be part of a community that does these practices and believes in these shared values. So on Facebook, there's two groups called Sexual Empowerment for Women and Sexual Empowerment for Men. So join these groups, and this is really where I support people and people support each other along following these ideas and practices that I share. So yeah, Nikki, I want to say thank you to you for having me, and some of the things I've said it in other podcasts, but some of the things really it's the first time that I've expressed them. So really thank you very much for your questions and for being, not just an interviewer, but somebody who's actually doing this and can really relate to what I'm sharing. So thank you for that.
Awesome. Well, I was going to make sure that you shared the Facebook groups because I've joined the Facebook group for women, so I can't tell you anything about the one for men because I'm not in that one for obvious reasons. But he does, and pretty much every day you're doing a Facebook Live because I keep getting notices about him being live and there being videos. So definitely check into that, folks. Y'all should check into that. So you've got a book for women and the people who love them, and you've got a course for men and the people who love them. So this is good. Yeah. This is good. There's something for everybody.
And there's much more in the pipeline. Yes, there's a lot with the sexual empowerment movement and yoni massage training videos and bringing people to whole body orgasms and yeah, a lot more than that even.
We've also always got to have something in the pipeline, right?
There's if I could just my dream, and by the way, that's the kind of support I need from people is, people who do like anything that I'm not an expert in, marketing, logistics, administration, Facebook, like I just want to create and have my work reach the people that need it, So if somebody wants to support this mission, you're very welcome to contact as well.
I tell you, always nice to have people to collaborate with, to say the least.
Totally.
Awesome. Well, listeners, I hope you got good information, and I think we will definitely have to talk again in the future. We will find more to talk about. Trust me.
I will be happy and ecstatic to be on another interview. I loved it, Linky. So thank you very much.
Awesome. And listeners, to get more information, I'll have the links for all the information as far as Facebook group, website, where you can get the book and all that good information. And just go to my website to www.readyforloveradio.com/transform for more information. And listeners, I will see you next time on Ready for Love Radio.